Welcome to episode 1 of the Redzone broadcast. I am your host, Zach Senza. Today, my guest is Nick Byer, and we'll be talking about the NFL through 5 weeks through the NFL season. Now, Nick, through the first 5 weeks, we've seen a lot of surprises, both good and bad, including your 4-1 Eagles. What is your biggest pleasant surprise in the NFL?
Obviously, the Eagles are a pleasant surprise since I'm an Eagles fan, and thus I know nothing but disappointment. But I gotta say, I'm most impressed with the Jets. This is a team that everybody thought was gonna be the worst in the league or second worst in the league. They don't have a quarterback. They have nothing going for them. They just seem totally uncoordinated. And yet here they are, 3-2, tied for first in their division. I mean, who knows how far. Could be a reality check this week against the Patriots, but I mean, it's still pretty impressive.
I agree. The Jets are an impressive team. The Eagles probably have 2 more wins than I thought they would. My biggest pleasant surprise is the Jacksonville Jaguars. They are 3-2. They had a very impressive win against Houston, Baltimore, and then recently the Steelers. Their defense is very impressive, which was on your fantasy team, of course. And it'll be interesting to see if they can win in a tight AFC South race. Now, Nick, what is your biggest disappointment so far this season?
I don't know if I call it a disappointment so much as, just ridiculously bad, but the Giants are a pretty big disappointment. I mean, I'm happy that they're this terrible, but I mean, 0-5 it's pretty surprising considering that they're a playoff team last year. I mean, they got these big weapons. They got OBJ. They still got Eli Manning. I mean, he's a pretty decent quarterback. They're lacking a run game, but I mean, 0-5, I don't think that's anything anyone saw coming from the Giants.
Yeah, I think the worst I would see them at this point is 2-3. I would say 3-2. I wouldn't be surprised. But with that tough that really bad O line they have, it's kind of hard for them to get any wins. But 0-5 is any decent surprise. But my biggest disappointment is the Dallas Cowboys. They're 2-3. They had 3 total losses all of last year, so they already matched it. So I mean, their defense struggled against the Rams and Jared Goff. So I mean, how can they turn that around throughout the season? I don't know. Let's see if they can correct their defense. And lastly, Nick, who is going to be the biggest turnaround? Really either a bad team or an average team that you think can make the next step for the rest of the season?
The 2 teams I'd say that I got 2. There's 2 teams that I'm pretty surprised at where they're at. Actually, I'd say your Oakland Raiders. With Carr out, I mean, look at how good they did last season, and then Carr went out, and it kind of fell apart. I mean, I think Carr will come back, and they can really turn things around. I find it hard to believe that they'll keep spiraling downward. And I mean, I think the same thing with the Colts. I don't think they're as bad as they look. I think maybe Andrew Luck comes back. I think they get things together, and they really start to turn things around. I can't see either of those 2 teams just continuing on a downward trend for much longer.
Yeah, the Colts have always been a really bad team the past 2 years. Even with Andrew Luck, they can't really do it. So hopefully, I think they can turn the corner, at least try to make it. The AFC South's a very tough race. No one's going to AFC South. The Houston Texans lost 2 important guys on that defense. So it'll be interesting to see how that'll turn out with that, and just how that tough AFC South is. So Colts could easily make the division with that really tough division. My biggest turnaround I see coming around is the Seattle Seahawks, 3-2 team. I think they should be a 4-1 team. I think they are the best team in the NFC, and I don't think it's close with how good that defense is. So it'll be really interesting to see how Seattle turns it around. Well, thank you for listening to episode 1 of the Red Zone broadcast. In the next episode, it'll be the halfway point of the NFL season, and we'll be giving out mid-season awards. For my guest, Nick Byer, I'm Zach Senza. Thank you for listening.